Well, the Cincinnati Reds and the Milwaukee Brewers proved without a doubt that the NL Central is going to be won by one of these two teams over the weekend. What's up? My name is Jeff Carr. He is Chuck Freimund alongside me. We are the hosts of Locked On Reds and Locked On Brewers. You are listening to a Locked On crossover because we are your team every single day. And both of us have been watching our teams for as long as we can remember. And when it comes to the Brewers, this is an old hat. They are right there in the competitive zone, the driver's seat, or at least right there next to the driver's seat when it comes to the NL Central. And for the Reds, this is not something that we're used to. This is something that this team has surprised just about everybody. I mean, I've been one of the more optimistic proponents for the Cincinnati Reds over the years, but not even I could see this coming. And the series leading into the All-Star break is just evident of the war that the final 6 games of the season between these two teams will be over the next week and a half. By the way, before we really get into all of this, thank you so much for checking us out, making us your first listen every single day when you're talking about Locked On Reds and Locked On Brewers, because we have you covered every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account. Use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And do you agree with that, Chuck? Do you think that this is a 2-team race for the NL Central?
Oh, absolutely. At one point, I thought St. Louis, and you never want to count out the Cardinals. Remember what happened in 2011? They came roaring back. But, for a while, I'll be honest, throughout most of the beginning of the season, I thought it would be a Brewers and Cardinals. And I said even, don't worry about the Reds. Don't worry about the Cardinals. Or don't worry about the Pirates. Don't worry about the Cubs. A little that I know that you guys had De La Cruz waiting to spring on us, and we got a glimpse of him this weekend, and oh boy, we got a problem here. So, yeah, this is going to be a 2-team race. Even Yelich said after the game on Sunday, again, the Brewers won 1-0. Jeff, he said, it's going to be back and forth all season long between us and those boys from Cincinnati.
I really thought at the beginning of this season that I was going to like the idea of a more balanced schedule and getting to play every single team at least once and getting to see all the different clubs. And I do like that idea, but I also hate the fact that we're playing, 5 less games, 6 less games here between these two ball clubs, because the Reds and Brewers, and while the Brewers are looking pretty good here in these last, 13 games, I think they are 10-3 overall.
Something like that. They're on their best run since way back early in April. But yeah, I like the fact, because we got the Atlanta Braves twice this month, home there and here. So I like the fact there's some variety, because I feel like, Jeff, in past seasons, all we saw were the Cincinnati Reds and Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers and Pirates. I feel like we were always, where the Brewers playing this weekend? Oh, they're down at Synergy Field playing the Reds. Again, we just got done playing these guys. Well, now we're playing you guys again this weekend. But I wish, now, I think schedule makers probably didn't think that our two teams were going to be competing for a division title. So they didn't look at it that way when the schedule was made and we're done with each other here in a couple of weeks at the end of July.
Yeah, because I think the Reds are loaded with the Pirates for the final stretch of the season. I think there's some games against the Cardinals, a lot of games against the Cardinals as well. But just the way that these two games really played out, even the first game that the Brewers had a hold of for pretty much most of the game, and then the Reds were able to at least make it dramatic there in the final inning, I think it has shown that the Reds aren't going to be that team that just kind of shows up to the ballpark and gets run over at the very least. And if not, it shows Milwaukee, because I know that they played the final series before Elly De La Cruz was called up there against the Dodgers back in June. So this was their first 3 games against them. And overall, like, Yes, Ellie is the biggest reason why the Reds are here, but there's so many other players on this roster that have really fed the success of this team. And I mean, you guys saw Alexis Diaz looked very good on Saturday, really starting to get the full extension on his pitches. He's really finishing, really doing a good job with his fastball and his slider, because there for a little bit, I thought fatigue was going to settle in and it was really going to derail the rest of his season. But I think that he kind of got a little bit of a second wind there. So when you look forward from a Brewers perspective at the Reds, what are you kind of thinking for these final 6 games?
Well, the one thing is how are the Brewers? Now, the Brewers' strength is their pitching staff, and the Reds' strength. I mean, you guys can hit with the best of them. Now, in the 2 Brewer wins, the Brewers shut down their offense a little bit, shut them out on Sunday, and then you guys made that run in the 9th inning, and I don't think it was a 7-1, and the Brewers didn't want to go to their closer Williams there, but they had to walk the guy Stenzel, who hit the home run the previous day. I thought, oh boy, here he comes, bases loaded. And they got him they struck him out, and that was it. So, but yeah, I think it's going to be the Brewer pitching staff against those bats, those electrifying bats that the Reds have, because your team, they can put up the offense. Now, the question I have with your team, do they have enough starting pitching to get the job done?
Yeah, that's
us. We don't have enough offense. We have the starting pitching. we just got a bunch of guys written 204 in the lineup. So you pick your poison there. You know what I'm saying?
So you combine these 2 teams, we probably win the National League. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Oh, yeah. We got the 27 Yankees, man.
Yeah. No, because I mean that Brewers, man. I mean, even Elvis Peguero, who he was the guy that was on the mound, and we're going to talk about Ellie De La Cruz here in a little bit, but he was on the mound for Ellie stealing home. But he was nails on Sunday. Mm-hmm. Everybody that touched the mound for the Brewers was nails on Sunday. And just overall, I think that for the Reds to catch up to that pitching staff, they've got to get Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo back healthy. But the biggest question is going to be, what are they going to do with Andrew Abbott later on in the season? Because there's rumors of them thinking about, either limiting him or shutting him down totally, a la, Steven Strasburg back in the day. And if that's the case, are they going to go out and trade for a rental arm? I don't see them going out and getting a guy like Eduardo Rodriguez or getting a guy like Shane Bieber and signing him to a long-term deal, because the guys that they have in this roster right now that are going to fill out the pitching staff in the future for years to come are going to be here. And I don't think you need to add another arm to that, but they do need something to kind of tide them over, because as baseball would tell you, 2 guys coming off of the injured list is not a guarantee that both of them are going to come back healthy and ready to go. One of them probably is still going to have a setback or something like that. So they need to be a little bit prepared on the front office side of things for this. Can Graham Ashcraft continue his resurgence? Because this starting rotation for the better part of a month, and yeah, I know they had an amazing winning streak in this month, but for the better part of the month was Andrew Abbott and a bunch of guys that you just hope at least give you 4 or 5 innings so your bullpen didn't get gassed every single day. So I think moving forward, David Bell has done an amazing job of managing the bullpen to this point, but he's not going to be able to be Captain Hook for the rest of the season and manage the final half of the year like every game is Game 7 of the World Series.
The Brewers have used 50 players between the minors and the roster. 50 players, and that's their been a philosophy has been the last 10 years. They look at it as a whole organizational thing. They're always DFAing guys and bringing guys back and signing guys. And they may sign a guy and he might be gone a week later. So that's the Brewers. They use their farm system. If you watch your transactions, they're always sending guys down and bringing guys up. A guy could come up and pitch for an inning, and then they'll send them back down to Nashville, and then they'll call somebody up, and it's just constantly the roster is always turning over. Like I said, 50 guys. Now with you guys, I'll be curious to see how Abbott is going to be in his next start, because that was the first time, at least, and you see him more than I do, Jeff. That's the first time I've seen him really put in a different situation. They ambushed him. They came out and hit him. They put him in an uncomfortable spot, and he had been pitching so well. He gave him his first major league loss. Let's see how Abbott is his next time out. when which one of those games is he starting this weekend? I assume he's going to be starting one of those games against the Brewers.
I think they're probably going to reshuffle the rotation. I think he would probably start Friday night's game.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, that was his first real like get rocked moment. Welcome to the big leagues type deal, because up until that point, everything had been roses for him. So you're right. I mean, it's not about, how much success you can have whenever you're a rookie. It's also what happens when you fall, because it's baseball. You're going to fall at some point.
Yeah.
So, do you get back up quickly? So I'm interested too, because you're right. I mean, it's going to come against the same lineup that did it to him already. So can he figure something else out? That's going to be interesting to watch. But I tell you this, we mentioned Ellie De La Cruz, but you also mentioned guys hitting 204. And I'm going to tell you in a moment why there's one of those dudes coming into the past series who was hitting 204 that Reds fans should not pay attention to his batting average, because it's going to be higher at the end of a series whenever these two teams get together. I'll tell you who that is in just a moment. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you about one of today's sponsors, and that is Gametime. Gametime gives you the best ticket deals anywhere. Check him out today. You can get the best last-minute ticket prices. And when we're talking about this weekend, Reds are back at Great American Ballpark. They're taking on the Brewers, who just enjoyed a little bit of their own home cooking. We'll see if the Reds can get some home cooking on their side this weekend. And if you want to check it out, I know the Gametime's got some interesting prices right now for this weekend series, because there's going to be a lot of folks down at the ballpark, so check them out. They're going to have the best deals, and they even guarantee it, because if you find a ticket deal on a different app that is cheaper in the same section, same row, then they will credit you 110% of the difference. That's how confident they are. Check them out today, Gametime, and when you create your profile in the Gametime app, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And if you can't be at the ballpark, like so many people will not be able to, you can catch the hometown broadcast for both the Brewers and the Reds on the SiriusXM app. Just download the SXM app and search Brewers or Reds. But thanks as always for making Locked On Brewers and Locked On Reds your first listen every single day. You are listening to a Locked On crossover here. Chuck Freimund and I are breaking down the series that led into the All-Star break, while also looking ahead to the series after the All-Star break. But Chuck, it's to me, and I think that I know where you might take your angle for an impressive Red, but I know this about Willy Adames. Whatever his batting average is at the beginning of a series with the Reds, it's going to be higher at the end of it, because he just seems to have the Reds number. And I don't know if he and Bill Hall have had long conversations. I will always remember Bill Hall as the biggest Reds killer. I know there's a lot of guys that are on this list, but Bill Hall is really high up on this list. And I think that whatever he used to do to the Reds, he has somehow imparted to Willy Adames, because Willy Adames just murders Reds pitching.
Yeah, Adames is in a contract year too, but he's hit the home runs, and he was very big in the first two games of that series. But yeah, he's been slumping, and people were wondering, is he putting pressure on himself? The Brewers are not showing any indication of giving him a contract extension, and there was some thought, would they trade him at the deadline if the Brewers weren't in the race? But even if they weren't in the race, how can you trade a guy who's batting 202? It's astounding. He's not this bad. He's just having a bad year. Yeah. I mean, Adames he was key in 2021 when they got him in May. They turned their season right around, won the division, eventually lost to the Braves. But yeah, he's a guy who can really get after it. He's just struggling. I'm hoping that he gets back out of the All-Star break refreshed and ready to go. With you guys, man, there's so many guys. Joey Votto is really, I thought he was on the downside of his career. I did. I really did. And you and I talked about him last week, but the way he turned on that pitch on Saturday, 4-1, and I know it's Colin Ray pitching, one of their lesser starters, but he crushed it. And I thought, man, Joey Votto he's got some juice left in that bat yet. So I think getting him, and we were talking last week how he bats fifth or sixth in the order, but that guy could still be a middle of the order type of hitter.
We were saying all throughout spring training and even throughout the off season, he was going through the surgery and he was doing the rehab and all this other stuff for the torn labrum and the torn bicep. And we're like, he's going to come back and win Player of the Year. or not, I mean, comeback player of the year. And he might not necessarily do that, but he is still proving to everyone that you cannot doubt him. You cannot expect him to just go away. Because, I mean, after 2018 and 2019, we were really thinking, what's going on here? And then, you know, the shortened season 2020, the first half of that, he was just continuing those struggles. And it's just like, man, is this just who he is? Then he flips a switch, and 2020 and 2021 looked phenomenal. And the injury really kind of derailed him in 2022. And now that he's back healthy, you see that power. And he has definitely turned off the part of his like hitter brain where you remember in like years past, like 2016, 2017, he just didn't strike out. He's okay with striking out a little bit more now. And you saw that on the final pitch of Sunday's game, whenever Devin Williams and that airbender and the fact that it was like bouncing in the dirt, but Joey had already swung through it. He's a little bit more aggressive at the plate now, but because of that, you see all that power. And that home run came at a very important point, because down 4-1 after having lost the way that they did on Friday, you're kind of thinking, boy, are the Reds about to get swept out of this series? And with one swing, Joey was just like, hold on a minute. And then that was such a key hit for him. Yeah.
And then, you know, the Brewers came back, took a 5-4 lead, Reds tied it up, and then they boat raced the Brewers the rest of the game. You know, the De La Cruz play, the stealing the 3 bases on 2 pitches. And the thing about that, my kid who was playing a Little League tournament this weekend, 12 years old, now he wants a De La Cruz jersey. He wants to. I said, I don't know. We're going to get one of those. So now I got to be on the search for it. Are they on sale in Cincinnati?
I think a couple of people have them.
Okay.
They on back order. I think you can get them in December. No, I'm kidding.
When he was, you know, the head first slide into home plate, and still, I mean, that was a thing. That was a thing of beauty, and it was. Hey, I hated to see that. It was embarrassing to our team, the Milwaukee Brewers. But I'm telling you, there were people who looked at that, Brewer fans, and said, "Wow, how did a rookie, Jeff? How did a rookie come in and pull off such a veteran move? I mean,
oh yeah,
what a heads up play that is. And this is a guy who's only in his first month of baseball. What's this guy going to be like when he gets some seasoning under him?
I cannot wait. And like every day, it's like, I can't wait to watch this dude play. And I feel like, and you know this because you watch all the Brewers games, and there's probably moments in a Brewers game where you see a possible advantage for a base runner, and you're like, why don't they take that? Why don't they do that? Why don't they take that extra base? Ellie is that guy. Ellie is the guy that takes that extra base. He is the guy that sees the opportunity. And I mean, it was obvious the defensive shift was on. That was what they were going to do for Jake Fraley, so Brian Anderson was just ceding third base. But even when he did that, and I think that a lot of people saw Ellie kind of like get up, you know, take his helmet off, fix his hair, put his helmet back on, almost as if he was like strategically doing something there. But they asked him in the postgame, they're like, so was that like part of your plan? He's like, nah, just like one of my dreads were caught in my helmet. I needed to get it unstuck. It was very uncomfortable. It was like, yeah. So I think he just plays the game. He just rolls with the game. And as many people that have ever watched a baseball game and looked and said, why doesn't he just go? He did that. And Elvis Peguero, you know, he's walking back to the mound. He's probably psyching himself up for the first pitch, thinking, man, Jake Fraley cannot put this ball in play because Ellie De La Cruz is going to score. And then he doesn't even get a chance to throw that pitch. It's so wild to me. And I've watched the highlight a bunch of different ways, whether it be the television call or the radio call. And it's just like that moment is such a rare moment in baseball too, that I think that it takes everyone by surprise, even more so. And I think that's why everyone's first question to him was, were you surprised yourself that you were able to do that? And he's just like, I'm always looking for the next opportunity.
Well, he saw something, because in that situation, Peguero probably didn't realize he no timeout. He didn't call time. Had he called timeout, you know, or De La Cruz not going anywhere, but there was no timeout called. He just casually walked back to the mound and didn't think anything of it. And De La Cruz had it in his mind. I don't know if this was something he had pre-planned or thought that he would always try, but he did it. I haven't seen that play ever done in all the thousands of games I've ever seen. So that was incredible. Thank God it did not come in a postseason game where a game where it would have cost us a better, because man, I would have a different, I'd be breaking bobbleheads. That's what I do. I break bobbleheads. I'd be breaking bobbleheads, Jeff.
No, I wouldn't blame. I mean, if our positions were switched, if that was Yelich that did it, I mean, I was there for the second Yelich cycle, so like I know it's like, dude, you just sometimes you just got to tip your cap to the guy on the other side. So that was one of those moments. And the most coolest, lukewarmest take. This isn't a hot take at all. Ellie's gonna do it again. To somebody, it's going to be to somebody, and I can't wait to see that.
I'd be surprised because you would think that everybody would be on alert now. Hey,
right?
He did it once, and if not Ellie, you think somebody else in the game will try that?
Somebody's got to watch. Like I mean, even watching him in the home run derby, Randy Arozarena, it could be a guy that does that. I mean, Yelich has always been an amazing base runner. I could see him probably doing that to somebody. So. It's something that I think not a lot of baseball players think about. Like there's probably part of their brain that just thinks, oh yeah, he probably called time there. But you're right. Like Ellie had the presence of mind to know that didn't happen. So it's wild. But I know this. You have a wild question for me, and it's a wild question because I don't know what's coming. It's about the All-Star game.
It's about the All-Star game and how Major League Baseball wasted an opportunity here in the next couple of days. Wasted a major opportunity.
We are going to get to that here in just a moment. Before we do, though, I want to tell you about another one of our sponsors here today, because this show is brought to you in part by BetterHelp. Whether you're dealing with decisions centered around career, relationship, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. We all need a little bit of help every now and then. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapist anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Seriously, therapy is something that I believe everyone should give a chance to, because I believe that everyone needs someone to talk to. And you may be in a situation where, you don't want to talk to anybody, but BetterHelp can be there for you. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. And remember, if you cannot be down at the ballpark, you can catch every pitch of the Reds and Brewers hometown broadcast on Sirius XM on the SXM app. Just search the word Reds or Brewers. And thanks again for checking out today's Locked On Reds, Locked On Brewers crossover. For more coverage of our two teams in between episodes, you can follow us on Twitter. You can follow Chuck at Chuck Freimund on Twitter. You can follow me at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, because Jeff with 2 Fs was taken. And that's where you will see our in-between episode takes. Well, I know this. I have been very intrigued to hear this question, because I was told in our show prep by Chuck Freimund that he had a very interesting all-star question for me. Let's hear it.
All right. Major League Baseball. We all love baseball, but sometimes, more often than not, they trip on themselves. A missed opportunity, and it involves your guy. I told you earlier in the show, my 12-year-old was talking about Dela Cruz. He wants a Dela Cruz jersey. I can't imagine he is the only 12-year-old who is in love with this kid, okay? Your guy, all right? But Major League Baseball, how do you not, in some form, I know he's been here for a month, okay, break the rules, put him somewhere where, showcase this kid. He's the hot property, okay? He's the hot property. Shohei's not in the game. Okay, he is a hot property too. But Ellie is the man right now. Take advantage of when the coals are hot. Strike. Have Ellie Dela Cruz somewhere at the All-Star game. Yeah. Show him in a home run. I don't care if it's a home run hitting contest, a base stealing contest. Introduce him. Whatever. You got to get his face on TV. Tuesday nights. You missed probably the opportunity Monday night. I didn't watch the home run derby, but you got to, Jeff, right? I mean, come on, Rob Manfred, what are you doing? Get that car out there.
I think, and it's interesting because he was extended an invitation to be in Monday night's home run derby, and he turned it down. And part of it was, you know, he talked it over. So his agent is Scott Boras. He talked it over with his agent, and he talked about, you know, you're going to go straight from Milwaukee to Seattle. You're going to participate in the derby. You're going to be super sore for a couple of days, and then you're going to get right back into the season. So do you want to spend this as like a break? Do you want to continue to develop and be there with your team and stuff? Or do you want to go to the derby? And ultimately, Ellie decided not to go to the derby. But he said if he were invited to the All-Star game, the answer would be different. And I agree with you. And I think that this is just another strike. And we're on strike 233,000.
And that's being nice.
With the league's inability to market itself. It just has no idea what to do with its stars.
And I totally get it. If he doesn't want to be in the home run hitting contest or the home run derby, I always call it the home run hitting contest, the home run derby. I get that. You know, some guys don't want to be in that. And I get the ramifications and all that. But, you know, make an exception. Get him on that all-star team.
Yeah.
Somehow, if he wants to, because again, he's your next star.
Yeah.
Get his, you know, it'd be great for him. It'd be great for the game. It'd be great for a small market baseball for a change. You know, if he was with New York Yankees, they'd probably bring him out there. Yeah. No, let's market this guy. And he's your guy. He's in our division. Major League Baseball fumbled the football once again because they should have this guy present in the All-Star game in some form, even if he's just on the bench.
Well, and it's a fun game, right? It's an exhibition game. It's all about entertainment. We're not talking about
nothing on the line.
Right. There's nothing on the line. I mean, let's just have fun with it. And I feel like there needs to be a different way. And I like the fan aspect of it, and it doesn't need to be completely washed away in all of this, but there needs to be something else that helps pick all-star teams in general, because it's very easy for the average year. I understand that the Kansas City Royals stuffed the ballot box one year. That doesn't happen very often. In fact, it likely never happens again. Like, I know that the Rangers can get a couple of people in there and things like that, but for the most part, the All-Star game comes from LA, Chicago, and New York. That's where you see the players come from. And I feel like it's just such a easy shot in the foot that the league needs to fix this, because Ellie De La Cruz needs to be in the All-Star game. And I firmly believe that Ellie and Matt McClain is another guy. He's not got the star power or anything like that, but he's a guy that many Reds fans believed had a real good shot to make it. Spencer Steer as well. Like, these are guys that by merit are going to be in the conversation year in and year out. But if you constantly make it about largest fan bases and biggest media markets and all this other stuff, then you're going to constantly have the same cast of characters in this All-Star game. And I feel like they've got to fix that somehow. And I don't necessarily have the answers. I'm more of an idea guy here. I'm not the planner. I'm the, hey, there's a problem. Let's fix it. But yeah.
That's you know, again, this mentality, as I was telling you last week, this mentality of Major League Baseball wants to run out the same teams. Sunday Night Baseball. If the Yankees and the Red Sox are playing a weekend series, you know it's going to be ESPN Sunday night game. It's going to be on the Fox game on Saturday afternoon. It's just same, you know, you can predict who's going to be on there. You know, when the last time the Brewers were on Sunday Night Baseball, I can't even remember the last time they were on Sunday Night Baseball from AmFam Field. Why are they doing this? And you know, the Brewers have been in the playoffs like 5 of the last 6 years or something like that. Still, they can't touch Sunday Night Baseball. And I'm not saying that's, you know, it's not like Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, but still, it's the lone game on a Sunday night. Get some different teams involved, and with Cincinnati too. You know, you guys are never on there.
And that's why if you tell someone on the coasts, on the east or the west coast, that the NL Central is a 2-team race between, and they would be like, well, the Cardinals are one of them. You're like, no, They're not even close. It's between the Reds and the Brewers this year, because when anyone thinks baseball in the heartland, they think the Cardinals, because that's the only team in Central America and Middle America baseball that is ever featured on some sort of national broadcast. They don't go to Milwaukee. They don't go to Minnesota. They don't go to Cincinnati. They don't go to Cleveland. They don't go to Kansas City or anything like that. And sure, you can talk about, well, some of those teams have been a little bit rough, but Milwaukee, playoff team year in and year out. Minnesota's been pretty good for 3 or 4 years. I know they had a rough year. I think it was last season, but I mean, 2021, they were pretty good. 2020, they were pretty good, and they're looking pretty good AL Central wise again this year. So I think that's part of this issue. And I think that, Elly De La Cruz not being in the All-Star game is a part of that. And it is definitely something that the league should look for in future years, because there's going to be more and more stars coming up through the minor leagues, because that's the beauty of the minor leagues. You always have the next star on the way up. But it feels as though once they make it to the major leagues, nobody knows how to market them. And it's really unfortunate.
And if Major League Baseball really feels they want 10 teams, then, I'll say this tongue in cheek, get rid of Cincinnati, get rid of Milwaukee, get rid of Minnesota. If you don't want to market those teams, if you just want us to just fall and die for the bigger markets, okay. I just feel like that's the way it is. Well, I mean, I bet if you listen to national talk shows, Shohei Ohtani's not in this All-Star game, but where is he going to end up? Why are the Angels going to trade him? I mean, he's playing.
Is he going to go to the Mets, the Dodgers, or the Yankees?
Yes. I mean, the Angels, they're Los Angeles, but they operate they're the one kind of big market team that flies under. They're like a small market. You never hear much of the Angels, but still, And I'm sure there's some talk shows. Oh yeah, Elly De La Cruz. Boy, wouldn't he look good in a Red Sox uniform someday?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I've seen a lot of people say, well, sleeper Red Sox could be. I'm like, it's not a sleeper if it's one of the teams on the coast. Stop calling them sleepers. But yes.
But I think that as the opportunity.
Yes. They're missing the opportunity because there's plenty of good baseball in Middle America. Yes. Brewers, Reds, absolutely proving that this year. And we got 3 awesome games coming up this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Great American Ballpark. And if you can't be at Great American Ballpark, you can catch every pitch of the Reds and Brewers hometown broadcast on Sirius XM. Just download the SXM app, search the word Reds or Brewers. And thanks for checking out our Locked On crossover between Locked On Reds and Locked On Brewers. Chuck and I are going to be all over your favorite teams as we move through the trade deadline, as we figure out what our teams are going to do. That's going to be a topic on a future crossover between the Reds and Locked On Reds and Locked On Brewers, because we still got a few more games to play yet. But as we move forward, you can count on us to be Locked On Reds and Locked On Brewers every single day.